I found the text on my fiancé's tablet, addressed to her, his brother's fiancée. Our perfect lives? An illusion. Crystal chandeliers rained light onto the penthouse ballroom like frozen diamonds, each prism refracting the Manhattan skyline glowing beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. Marcus Vexler, 34, stood at the epicenter of his own creation, a self-made billionaire surveying the empire he'd built from a college dorm room. Ethelgard Industries wasn't just a tech giant, it was his lifeblood. Tonight, however, was about family. His arm rested possessively around Sophia Reed, whose emerald gown seemed woven from liquid envy. Across the room, his younger brother Alex, 30, charismatic and effortlessly magnetic in a tailored midnight suit, raised a flute of Dom Perignon. To Marcus, Alex's voice, warm and resonant, cut through the sophisticated murmur of venture capitalists and socialites. The brother who taught me that building empires isn't just about code and capital, but about integrity. The man who proves every day that having it all. His gaze swept meaningfully to Elena Vasquez, nestled beside him. Isn't a myth. May Elena and I build something half as enduring as what you've created. He toasted, his smile dazzling, seemingly genuine. Marcus returned the smile, a rare, unguarded expression softening the intense focus usually etched onto his features. He saw Alex's success, a thriving venture capital firm making the younger Vexler a millionaire in his own right, not as competition, but as a testament to their shared blood, their shared drive. He squeezed Sophia's waist. This, he thought, surveying the glittering tableau, the empire, the legacy, the stunning woman at his side, the brother he adored, was the pinnacle. The gilded cage was of his own making, and he relished every bar. Elena Vasquez, 31, felt Alex's arm tighten around her shoulders during the toast. It wasn't a loving embrace. It felt like possession, a claim staked for Marcus's benefit. She smiled up at Alex, her dark eyes observant behind the warmth she projected. Her art curator's mind cataloged details others missed. The fractional delay in Alex's laughter when Marcus clapped him on the back, the almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw when Marcus mentioned Ethelgard's latest billion-dollar acquisition. And Sophia. Elena watched as Sophia, Marcus's fiancée, threw her head back with a laugh at something Alex murmured, a laugh that seemed a decibel too high, her hand brushing Alex's sleeve with lingering familiarity. Sophia's wrist caught the light, revealing a new bracelet, intricate platinum coils set with rare honey-hued diamonds. Elena's breath hitched. Alex had shown her that exact design weeks ago, calling it audacious, a statement piece. He dismissed it as impractical for Elena's taste. Seeing it now on Sophia's wrist felt like a shard of ice sliding down her spine. Later, amidst the swirl of champagne and murmured congratulations for her own engagement, Elena found Alex near a panoramic window overlooking the pulsing city. "That bracelet Sophia's wearing, it's stunning," she ventured, her voice carefully neutral. "The one you showed me? The Vespertine?" Alex barely glanced up from his phone, his thumb scrolling. Oh, that? Yeah, striking, isn't it? Looks good on her." He shrugged, a masterclass in casual indifference. "Sophia's always had flashy taste," Marcus indulges her. He finally looked at her, his famous charm dialed up. "Why?" Feeling overshadowed, "my beautiful Elena?" "Don't. Your elegance is timeless, not loud." He pulled her close, kissing her temple. His lips felt cool. "Big deal closing tomorrow. Nerves are shot. Need to prep." He pressed a small velvet box into her hand. Inside lay diamond studs, exquisite, impersonal. Another expensive apology for his distance. "Wear these next week at the Met Gala. You'll outshine every painting." Meanwhile, Marcus paced his private study, momentarily escaping the throng. The stress lines around his eyes were deeper than usual. "The Viridian acquisition is turning into a hydra, Charles." He spoke into his phone, his voice low and tense. "Every time we cut off one head of dissent, 2 more regulatory concerns spring up." Sophia drifted in, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. She placed one silently on his desk, her expression one of practiced concern. She listened, nodding sympathetically as he vented, her hand resting lightly on his arm. When he paused, she offered soothing platitudes. "Darling, you've conquered tougher dragons. They're just posturing. You'll crush it by Friday, I know you will." Her words were smooth, reassuring, but her eyes flickered towards the door, towards the distant sound of Alex's laughter echoing from the ballroom. Her comfort felt like a beautifully wrapped empty box. 3 days later, the sleek, modern lines of Alex's penthouse felt sterile and cold. Elena moved through the pre-dawn gloom, anxiety a tight knot in her stomach. Alex had left his tablet behind, the one containing the pitch deck for a crucial 7:00 a.m. investor meeting he'd stressed was make or break. He'd called in a panic from his car, minutes away. "Elena, it's on my desk. Bring it down to the lobby now. The blue one, not the black." She found the blue tablet on his minimalist desk. As she picked it up, the screen lit up with a notification preview. "Sophia, last night was electric. Can't wait for Friday? The usual suite awaits. Bring that adventurous spirit." The words blurred. Electric, Friday, usual suite. The air vanished from Elena's lungs. A cold, sickening dread washed over her, turning her limbs to lead. The expensive studs Alex had given her felt suddenly heavy, mocking in her ears. Against every instinct screaming stop, her trembling fingers hovered over the lock screen. Alex was predictable in his vanities. What would he use? With a surge of nauseating certainty, she typed, "Marcus Day." The screen unlocked. The world narrowed to the cold glow of the device. She wasn't searching. The horror unfolded before her. Messaging apps exploded with threads between S and A, months of them, explicit, brazen, filled with stolen moments and cruel comparisons. "Marcus is buried in spreadsheets again. You actually see me, Alex. You make me feel alive." Elena's sweet but predictable. "You, Sophia, you're fire." Photos loaded, shockingly intimate, taken in places Elena recognized with a jolt. Marcus's Aspen Lodge, the rooftop terrace of Marcus's primary penthouse, the back seat of Marcus's Maybach, and the plans. Meticulous, cynical. Friday, tomorrow. The Vesper Lounge, a discreet boutique hotel Alex had quietly invested in, a love nest funded, in part, by the empire his brother built. The tablet clattered onto the desk. Elena staggered back, bile rising in her throat. The gilded facade of her life, of their intertwined lives, lay in splintered ruins. The man she loved, the brother Marcus adored, it was all a grotesque, glittering lie. Fury, white-hot and terrifying, warred with the crushing weight of betrayal. She grabbed the tablet, her knuckles white. Alex wasn't just cheating, he was desecrating everything. He needed to see her face when he realized his perfect betrayal was over. She caught him pacing frantically in the marble lobby, his handsome face tight with annoyance that melted into surprise when he saw her expression. "Elena, did you get the—" She thrust the tablet at him, the damning messages displayed. "Electric, Alex?" Her voice was a low, dangerous rasp, unfamiliar even to her. "Adventurous spirit? The usual suite?" Alex's face paled, then flushed crimson. He snatched the tablet, his eyes darting across the screen. "Elena, this isn't—" "Don't!" she hissed, stepping closer, ignoring the curious glance of the doorman. "Months! In Marcus's homes, his car. How could you?" Tears threatened, but anger held them back. "Look at me and lie, Alex. Tell me it's photoshopped. Tell me Sophia hacked you." He looked at her then, not with remorse, but with a chilling calculation. The charming mask slipped entirely, revealing something colder, harder beneath. "Fine," he snapped, lowering his voice, pulling her roughly towards a secluded alcove. "Fine, you found out. It is what it is." "What it is?" Elena choked out. "You're sleeping with your brother's fiancée, the brother who adores you. ¿Adores me?" Alex's laugh was sharp, devoid of humor. "He tolerates me. I live in his goddamn shadow. Everything I do, everything I achieve, It's good, Alex. But Marcus? He built an empire? Good for him. He thinks that gives him the right to be the golden boy forever? His eyes, usually sparkling with charm, were flinty. Sophia, she gets it. She understands what it's like to be an accessory to St. Marcus. She craves excitement, ambition that isn't buried in lines of code. She sees me. Elena recoiled as if slapped. And what are we, Alex? 4 years? Was I just convenient? A placeholder? You were comfortable, Alex stated flatly, the cruelty deliberate. Beautiful, intelligent, safe. But safe gets boring, Elena. Sophia, she's a challenge. She's real fire, not the quiet embers you banked. He glanced at his watch, a gesture so callous it stole Elena's breath. This meeting is critical. We'll discuss this later. Keep your mouth shut. Think of the scandal. Think of Marcus. His implication hung heavy. Marcus's wrath would be catastrophic, and Elena would be collateral damage. He strode away towards the waiting town car, leaving Elena standing alone in the opulent lobby, the cold marble floor leaching the warmth from her body. The fury crystallized into something harder, sharper. He thought she was safe, quiet. He thought she'd protect him. The image of Marcus, loyal, driven, unsuspecting Marcus, flashed in her mind. He deserved the truth, no matter how much it destroyed him. The fallout would be nuclear, but the lies had already detonated her world. Clutching the tablet like a shield and a weapon, Elena hailed a cab. Destination: Ethelgard Tower. The gilded cage was about to implode. Marcus Vexler's domain occupied the top 10 floors of Ethelgard Tower, a gleaming spire of glass and steel that dominated the midtown skyline. Security was a discreet, impenetrable fortress. Elena, her face pale but set, approached the private elevator bank guarded by 2 impassive men in dark suits. "Miss Vasquez," one guard acknowledged politely. "Miss Vexler isn't expecting visitors. His schedule is—" "It's about Alex," Elena interrupted, her voice surprisingly steady. "It's urgent, family emergency." Using Alex's name felt like swallowing acid, but it was the only key guaranteed to bypass Marcus's defenses. The guards exchanged a glance. Family trumped protocol. One spoke softly into his cuff mic, received a terse confirmation, and gestured her towards the elevator. The ascent was silent, swift, the city falling away beneath her. The doors opened directly into Marcus's inner sanctum, a vast office of bleached wood, steel, and breathtaking views. Marcus stood silhouetted against the window, phone to his ear, radiating controlled intensity. "Then make them understand, Charles. The deadline is non-negotiable. If Viridian's board wants to play hardball, remind them who holds the leverage. Crush it." He ended the call, turning. His annoyance at the interruption shifted to surprise, then immediate concern when he saw Elena's face. "Elena, what's wrong? Is Alex hurt?" He strode towards her, genuine worry creasing his brow. The sight of it, his instant concern for the brother betraying him so profoundly, almost shattered Elena's resolve. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He's not hurt, but you are. You will be." She held out the tablet, the screen still displaying the damning messages. "I found this on Alex's tablet this morning." Marcus took the device, his gaze dropping to the screen. Elena watched as the blood drained from his face. His broad shoulders, usually radiating power, seemed to stiffen, then subtly collapse inward. The vibrant intensity in his dark eyes extinguished, replaced by a terrifying, glacial stillness. The silence that descended was profound, thick enough to choke on. Seconds stretched into an eternity. He didn't rage, didn't shout, he simply froze. Then, with meticulous slowness, he began to scroll, reading every vile message, studying every incriminating photo. His expression didn't change, but the air around him crackled with a suppressed violence that made Elena's skin prickle. Finally he looked up. His eyes met Elena's, and the depth of pain and betrayal she saw there was almost unbearable. It was the look of a man witnessing the utter collapse of his foundational truths. Did he admit it? Marcus's voice was dangerously quiet, a low rumble like distant thunder. Yes, he called me. Safe. Boring, said Sophia understood his ambition. Elena's voice trembled. He told me to keep quiet, to avoid scandal. Marcus gave a single, curt nod. He walked to his desk, placed the tablet down, and activated his sleek computer console. His fingers flew across the keyboard, swift, precise, utterly devoid of hesitation. He pulled up security logs, building access records, credit card statements, encrypted communication channels Elena couldn't fathom. He cross-referenced dates, times, locations from the messages with cold, brutal efficiency. Every click, every confirmed match, was another nail in the coffin of his relationship with his brother and the woman he'd planned to marry. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was a physical violation of his spaces, his trust. Seeing the proof laid bare in his own systems, by his own hand, was a unique agony. He didn't need to say it. The final vestige of hope in his eyes died. "Thank you, Elena," he said finally, the words clipped, devoid of warmth, yet holding a terrible weight. "For bringing this to me, for the truth." He picked up his phone, pressing a single speed dial button. "Ethan, secure the penthouse. Sophia Reed is to be removed immediately. All access revoked. All possessions packed and sent to storage. Escort her out now, no discussion. Then meet me at the Vesper Lounge. We have an appointment." He paused, his gaze hardening into obsidian. "And locate Alexander Vexler. Freeze everything. Trusts, credit lines, discretionary funds, effective immediately. Notify the board of his disassociation from all Ethelgard-affiliated ventures." He ended the call, the finality in his tone absolute. He looked back at Elena, standing small and shattered in the vast, cold expanse of his office, another casualty of his brother's treachery. The empire he'd built felt suddenly hollow, a gilded monument to naivety. The war was declared, and the first casualties were trust, brotherhood, and the future he thought he owned. The facade wasn't just cracked, it was pulverized. The reckoning had begun. The silence in Marcus Vexler's office after the phone call wasn't empty. It was a vacuum sucking the oxygen from the room. Elena stood frozen, the echoes of Marcus's commands. Remove Sophia. Freeze Alex. Disassociation, ringing in her ears. The sheer, brutal efficiency of his response was terrifying. He wasn't a man collapsing. He was a fortress slamming shut, steel doors grinding into place. He turned from the console, his face a mask of chilling calm. Only the slight tremor in his hand as he picked up his car keys betrayed the seismic fury beneath. "I have to go," he stated, his voice devoid of inflection. "To the Vesper Lounge, to witness the charade." He looked at Elena, a flicker of something akin to pity crossing his stony features. "You shouldn't be alone. Go home. Lock the door. I'll have security check on you." He was out the door before she could respond, a force of controlled devastation moving down the private corridor. Elena was left alone in the cavernous, sterile office, the panoramic view of New York suddenly feeling like a judgmental audience. She numbly made her way back down to the indifferent city streets. Home offered no sanctuary. Alex's penthouse, once aspirational, now felt like a museum of lies. She paced, the diamond studs burning her ears. She threw them into a drawer, the clatter satisfyingly sharp. Across the city, in Marcus's palatial penthouse, chaos erupted in a cocoon of luxury. Sophia Reed, wrapped in a silk robe, was leisurely applying her signature crimson lipstick when Ethan, Marcus's head of security, a man built like a bank vault with eyes like flint, entered the bedroom without knocking, flanked by two impassive colleagues. "Ms. Reed," Ethan's voice was flat, professional. "Your presence is required elsewhere. Please gather any immediate personal necessities. You have 5 minutes." Sophia spun, indignation flaring. "How dare you barge in here? Marcus will hear about this. What is the meaning?" "Mr. Vexler has revoked your access and residency privileges effective immediately," Ethan cut in, his tone brooking no argument. "Your belongings will be packed and stored. You are to vacate the premises now. The color drained from Sophia's face, replaced by a mask of furious disbelief. Revoked? That's absurd. Where is Marcus? I demand to speak to him. She lunged for her phone on the nightstand. Ethan was faster, plucking it from her grasp. Hey, communication privileges are also revoked, Ethan stated. 4 minutes, Ms. Reed, or we assist you. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced Sophia's anger. He knew. How? Alex? Elena? It didn't matter. The gilded cage door was slamming shut. She scrambled, throwing essentials into a Birkin bag. Jewelry, cash, passport, her movements jerky with rage and fear. The honey diamond bracelet felt suddenly heavy, a brand of shame. She wrenched it off, hurling it onto the rumpled sheets. Fine, take his damned mausoleum, she spat, storming past the security men, head held high in a final, brittle show of defiance. The elevator ride down was silent, humiliating. The doorman averted his eyes as Ethan escorted her to a waiting black sedan. Her reign as Marcus Vexler's queen was over before the coronation. The Vesper Lounge exuded discreet opulence. Low lighting, plush velvet, the murmur of clandestine deals and illicit affairs. Marcus sat in a shadowed corner booth, nursing a mineral water he hadn't touched. He'd arrived early, a predator claiming the high ground. He watched the discreet entrance, his face impassive, a storm contained. Ethan materialized beside him. She's out, secured her phone. Alexander's assets are frozen. Board notified. Marcus gave a barely perceptible nod. His eyes never left the door. At precisely 1:00 p.m., Alex Vexler strode in, radiating his usual charismatic confidence, scanning the room for Sophia. His smile faltered when he saw Marcus. Confusion flickered, then hardened into wary arrogance as he approached the booth. Marcus? Fancy meeting you here. Slumming it? Or did Sophia invite you for a chat? The innuendo was deliberate, a final, reckless poke. Marcus didn't rise. He simply slid the blue tablet across the polished tabletop. The screen displayed a particularly damning photo, Alex and Sophia locked in an embrace on Marcus's Aspen Lodge sofa. Sit down, Alex. Alex's face went slack. He stared at the tablet, then at Marcus, the blood draining from his face. He sank into the booth opposite, all bravado evaporating. Marcus, it's not what it looks like. Spare me. Marcus's voice was a low, dangerous rasp, the calm finally cracking. Months. In my homes. My car. With my fiancée. Each word was a hammer blow. Using my birthday as your password, a poetic touch of contempt, brother. The last word dripped acid. Alex flinched. He rallied, desperation edging his voice. Okay, yes, it happened, but Marcus, you have to understand. Sophia, she felt neglected. You were always working, building your precious empire. She needed attention, excitement, something you couldn't give her. He leaned forward, trying to forge a connection. And you're always the golden boy, Dad's favorite, the self-made titan. I was just the charming afterthought. I needed to win at something, to take something that was yours. Marcus listened, the raw envy and resentment laid bare. It wasn't a revelation, it was a confirmation of a rot he'd ignored. So, this was your victory? Marcus asked, his voice terrifyingly quiet. Betraying your brother, deceiving Elena, destroying 2 relationships for a thrill? For Sophia's fire? He uttered her name like a curse. It was real, Alex insisted, a flicker of his old defiance returning. She loves me. Save it. Marcus cut him off, his disgust palpable. He pushed a single sheet of paper across the table. This is a formal notice of disassociation. You are removed from the Vexler family trusts. Your access to all discretionary funds linked to Ethelgard or myself is terminated. Your name will be struck from all charitable boards we jointly supported. Effective immediately. Alex stared at the document, panic flaring in his eyes. "You can't do this. I'm your brother." "You stopped being my brother the moment you touched her," Marcus stated, the finality absolute. He stood up, towering over Alex in the booth. "Consider your credit lines frozen. Your investors will be informed of your compromised judgment and recent verifiable financial missteps with that Jakarta fund." Marcus had done his homework beyond the affair. "Build your own empire, Alex. Without my shadow, without my money, without me." He turned to leave, then paused, looking down at his brother, a stranger drowning in the wreckage of his own making. "And Alex? Lose my number." He walked away, leaving Alex alone in the plush booth, clutching the disassociation notice, the glittering trap of the Vesper Lounge closing in on him, not as a lover's haven, but as the site of his utter ruin. The victory he craved tasted like ashes. The fallout was swift and public, a tremor through their privileged world. Whispers became headlines. Vexler heir cut off. Tech Titan's scandalous split. Sophia's face, splashed across gossip sites, was a mask of carefully curated outrage, claiming irreconcilable differences and emotional neglect. Alex remained silent, his charm useless against the tidal wave of scandal. His carefully cultivated network evaporated, doors slammed shut, calls went unanswered. The frozen assets pinched immediately. The lifestyle of a millionaire venture capitalist required constant cash flow, now dammed at its source. Reckless bets made to prove himself independent of Marcus began to hemorrhage money without the safety net. Marcus, meanwhile, moved through the wreckage with icy precision. He issued a terse, legally vetted statement through Ethelgard PR. "Mr. Vexler has dissolved his engagement to Miss Reed and severed all business and personal ties with Mr. Alexander Vexler due to profound breaches of trust. He requests privacy for all parties involved." The lack of detail spoke volumes, letting speculation paint Alex and Sophia as the villains. He focused on work, the Viridian acquisition, a brutal but welcome distraction, a familiar battlefield where control was still possible. Days bled into a week. The initial shock for Elena had subsided, replaced by a hollow ache and a simmering anger. She avoided the press, holed up in her apartment, trying to process the implosion of her life. One gray afternoon, needing air, she walked aimlessly, ending up near Ethelgard Tower. She looked up at its imposing height, a monument to Marcus's power and her own devastating role in its recent history. She wasn't sure why she was there. As she turned to leave, a black sedan pulled smoothly to the curb. The rear window lowered. Marcus Vexler looked out, his face drawn, shadows like bruises under his eyes, but the terrifying calm replaced by a profound exhaustion. "Elena." His voice was rough. "Are you all right?" The simple question, the visible toll the betrayal had taken on this seemingly invincible man, undid her. Tears welled, hot and sudden. She tried to speak, failed, just shook her head. She tried to speak, failed, just shook her head. He opened the door. "Get in, please." They ended up in a small, unassuming coffee shop miles from the glittering districts they inhabited, a place of worn linoleum and the rich smell of dark roast. They sat in a corner booth, anonymity a temporary shield. The silence wasn't awkward, it was the shared silence of survivors surveying a bomb crater. "I'm sorry," Marcus said finally, staring into his black coffee, "for what he did to you, the cruelty." He looked up, his gaze meeting hers, raw and unguarded for the first time. "He called you safe, boring." He shook his head, a muscle ticking in his jaw. "He's a fool, a destructive, envious fool." Elena wiped her eyes. "He called you neglectful, said that's why Sophia." She couldn't finish. Marcus's grip tightened on his mug. She said the same, before she was escorted out, mocked the spreadsheets. He let out a bitter, humorless breath. Maybe they were right, about that part. The empire, it consumes. I thought providing, building security was love. For her, for him. Clearly it wasn't enough. Or it was the wrong currency entirely. The admission cost him. Vulnerability looked foreign on him. "They used it as an excuse," Elena said quietly, finding her voice. a justification for their selfishness. You built something incredible, Marcus, something real. They traded integrity for what? Thrills? Spite? He studied her, really studied her, for the first time. Not as Alex's fiancée, but as Elena Vasquez. The intelligence in her dark eyes, the quiet strength beneath the grief, the lack of artifice. You see art, he said, the non sequitur surprising them both. Truly see it, not just the price tag or the prestige. Elena blinked. It's my life. What's real, what endures, what speaks across centuries. I used to love it, Marcus confessed, the words surprising him. Before the code, the deals, the empire, I'd lose hours in galleries. My mother, she was a conservator. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, fleeting and sad. I haven't set foot in one in years, too busy acquiring companies, not beauty. He gestured vaguely towards the tower's distant silhouette. That world, it's full of Sophias, performance art. I stopped seeing the real thing. A fragile connection sparked. They talked, tentatively at first, then with growing ease. Not just about the wreckage, but about El Greco's haunting light, the visceral power of a Catholic Holwitz etching, the quiet serenity of a Morandi still life. Elena spoke with passion and insight, describing textures, emotions, histories embedded in pigment. Marcus listened, truly listened, a forgotten part of him stirring. He shared fragments of his mother, her meticulous care for damaged canvases, a metaphor that resonated painfully now. They discovered a shared dry, dark humor about the absurdity of their privileged yet poisoned world. Amidst the shared devastation, they found unexpected solace. Laughter, genuine and surprised, broke through the gloom over a shared observation about a particularly pretentious art critic. It wasn't romance. It was the profound recognition of two decent people who understood the depth of the betrayal they'd suffered, finding unexpected comfort in each other's company, grounded in something real, art, honesty, and a mutual refusal to be defined by the lies. While Marcus and Elena found fragile connection, Alex and Sophia spiraled into toxic symbiosis. Thrown together by shared resentment and ostracization, their initial bond of rebellion quickly curdled. They holed up in Alex's penthouse, a gilded cage now tarnished by anxiety. Sophia ranted about Marcus's petty vengeance, scheming about lawsuits, all interviews demanding Alex fix her ruined reputation and access to funds. Alex, reeling from the financial freeze and Marcus's exposure of his Jakarta fund mismanagement, using offshore fees to cover personal losses, was drowning in panic and impotent rage. He snapped at Sophia's demands, accusing her of greed, of using him. She retaliated, mocking his sudden impotence, his failure to be the equal to Marcus he'd pretended to be. Their arguments were vicious, fueled by desperation and mutual blame. The fire Alex had craved now burned them both. He made increasingly reckless VC moves with his remaining capital, chasing a Hail Mary win to prove himself, only accelerating his financial descent. Sophia, watching her last meal ticket crumble, grew colder, more calculating, plotting her exit but needing leverage first. 3 weeks after the coffee shop, the smear campaign hit. A lurid exclusive landed on a notorious gossip site. Heartless billionaire cuts off brother, fiancé in power play. It painted Marcus as a tyrannical workaholic who drove Sophia into Alex's arms, then ruthlessly destroyed them both out of wounded pride. It heavily implied Elena was a pawn, perhaps even Marcus's mistress, orchestrating the reveal to eliminate Sophia. The article was riddled with anonymous close sources and distorted half-truths designed to inflict maximum reputational damage. Alex's fingerprints were invisible but obvious. Sophia's venom dripped from every line. Elena saw it first. The implication that she was some scheming seductress, that she'd wanted this horror, made her physically ill. Shame and fear washed over her. Would the art world, her world, believe it? She called Marcus, her voice shaking. He listened, his voice eerily calm. I know, Ethan flagged it. Don't engage. Don't look at the comments. Stay inside. He paused. Trust me. Marcus hadn't been idle in his grief. He'd anticipated this move. Within an hour, Ethelgard's PR machine, a sleek, silent beast, released its countermeasure. Not a denial, but a curated disclosure. A formal statement, accompanied by legally vetted evidence screenshots, blurred but damning, timestamps, locations matching Marcus's properties, the Vesper booking, outlined the profound, months-long betrayal of trust by Alexander Vexler and Sophia Reed. It focused solely on their actions, the affair, the deception, the violation of personal spaces. Crucially, it included a redacted excerpt from Alex's Jakarta fund report, showing the deliberate misallocation of funds. The message was clear. This wasn't Marcus's tyranny. It was the consequence of Alex and Sophia's own choices and Alex's separate financial misconduct. Simultaneously, Marcus did something unprecedented. He issued a separate personal statement. Elena Vasquez is a victim of profound betrayal, possessing unwavering integrity and courage. Her only role was revealing a painful truth that others sought to hide. I deeply regret the suffering inflicted upon her by the actions of others. Her character is beyond reproach. He didn't mention their connection. He shielded her, publicly, unequivocally. The backlash against Alex and Sophia was immediate and brutal. The narrative flipped. They weren't star-crossed lovers. They were deceitful, self-serving schemers, and Alex was potentially crooked. Sophia's claims of neglect drowned in the tide of evidence proving her calculated affair. Alex's remaining credibility evaporated. Investors fled his crumbling fund. Social invitations ceased entirely. They were pariahs. Elena read Marcus's statement shielding her. The public vindication was a relief, but it was the fierce, unwavering protection in his words that truly struck her. He hadn't used her, he'd defended her. The fragile ember of connection, kindled over coffee and shared pain, glowed a little brighter, warmed by an unexpected, potent sense of safety. She wasn't alone in the ashes. Someone powerful, someone who understood the cost, was standing beside her. The world might be watching, but for the first time since the discovery, Elena Vasquez didn't feel afraid. She felt seen and protected. The path forward, though shrouded in uncertainty, felt less desolate. The Gilded Betrayal had forged an unexpected bond, tempered in fire and cooled in the quiet understanding of shared survival. The embers of something new, something real, began to glow amidst the ruins. The air in the Lumine gallery hummed with a different kind of electricity, the buzz of genuine appreciation, the soft clink of glasses, the murmur of conversation punctuated by thoughtful silences. Elena Vasquez stood near the entrance, her heart a frantic bird against her ribs. Her debut solo curation, Chiaroscuro, Light Found in Shadow, was a triumph. Bold contemporary pieces exploring resilience and hidden beauty hung alongside carefully chosen classics, the space transformed into a dialogue between darkness and illumination. The turnout was impressive. Critics, serious collectors, colleagues who respected her vision, not just her former proximity to the Vexler name. Marcus Vexler stood a few feet away, a protective, grounding presence. He wore a well-cut but understated suit, his attention seemingly divided between the art and Elena. The harsh lines of betrayal and fury that had defined him months ago had softened into a watchful calm, etched with the experience of profound loss and unexpected gain. He admired a powerful abstract triptych nearby, its deep blues and sudden bursts of gold seeming to resonate with their own journey. He caught Elena's eye and offered a small, private smile, a world away from the brittle perfection of Alex's engagement toast. He moved closer, his voice low. "It's stunning, Elena, truly. You've captured something essential." His gaze swept the room, not with ownership, but with quiet pride in her achievement. Before she could respond, a discordant note shattered the harmony. A figure stumbled through the gallery entrance, drawing startled glances. Alex Vexler, but the charismatic venture capitalist was gone. This man was haggard, his expensive suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot and unfocused. The scent of cheap whiskey preceded him like a toxic cloud. Beside him, hovering like a vengeful shadow in an ill-fitting dress, was Sophia. Her beauty was sharpened into bitterness, her eyes scanning the room with undisguised venom, landing squarely on Marcus and Elena. A collective hush fell. Security guards near the door tensed, exchanging glances with Ethan, who stood discreetly near a back exit. Marcus shifted almost imperceptibly, placing himself slightly in front of Elena, a shield activated by instinct. "Brother!" Alex's voice was too loud, slurred, dripping with sarcasm. "Fancy seeing you here, slumming it with the artists?" He lurched forward, ignoring the appalled stares. "Or just collecting another shiny thing? Found a replacement for Sophia already? Found my replacement?" His bleary eyes fixed on Elena with possessive rage. "Always knew you were ambitious, Elena. Didn't peg you for a gold-digging homewrecker, though. Clever play. Destroy my life, steal my brother, take my place." Sophia sneered, her voice a viper's hiss cutting through the silence. "Yes, Marcus, well done. Trade down from a queen to a curator. Very fitting for your new, smaller life." Her gaze swept the gallery with disdain. "Is this your penance? Pretending to appreciate finger paints?" Marcus's expression hardened, the old fury flashing in his eyes, but before he could speak, Elena stepped forward. Not around Marcus, but beside him, facing the storm head-on. The quiet woman Alex had dismissed as safe embers was gone. In her place stood someone forged in betrayal, tempered by integrity, and radiant with hard-won peace. "Enough, Alex," Elena stated, her voice clear and steady, carrying effortlessly in the hushed gallery. It wasn't a shout, it was a command. "Look at yourself. Look what your envy and your lies have done." Alex blinked, momentarily thrown by her directness, her lack of fear. "My lies? He stole you. He stole my life." "Stole what, Alex?" Elena asked, her gaze unwavering. "What life? The one propped up by Marcus's money, Marcus's trust, Marcus's name? The life where you pretended loyalty while stabbing him in the back? The life where you called the woman who loved you safe and boring, while you chased cheap thrills with a woman who only ever saw you as a tool to hurt him and grab what she could?" She gestured toward Sophia, who flinched as if struck. "You didn't love her, Alex. You loved taking her from him. You loved the illusion of winning against the brother you resented for simply existing and succeeding on his own terms." Alex sputtered, swaying. "You don't know. I know everything." Elena cut him off, her voice gaining intensity. "I saw the messages. I saw the photos in Marcus's own home. I heard your cruelty when you thought no one else was listening. You didn't just betray Marcus. You betrayed every shred of decency you ever pretended to have. You used me. You used Sophia. You used Marcus's love for you as a weapon against him. Your life isn't stolen, Alex. It's collapsed. And you have no one to blame but yourself and the choices you made in the dark, thinking you were clever, thinking you were winning." She took a step closer, her eyes holding his, reflecting the wreckage he'd become. "Look around you. This?" She gestured at the gallery, the art, the quiet respect in the room. "This is light found after the shadow. This is integrity. This is building something real, something that doesn't require tearing someone else down. Marcus didn't steal me. He offered me respect when you offered only contempt. He offered me honesty when you built your life on lies. He offered me safety that isn't a cage but a harbor. Your fire, Alex?" She glanced at Sophia with profound pity. "It only ever burned you." Alex stared at her, the drunken bravado crumbling, replaced by a dawning horror, not just at his circumstances, but at the devastating clarity in Elena's eyes, at the undeniable truth of her words. He saw no love, no lingering affection, only a profound disappointment and a final, irrevocable dismissal. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The hollowness he'd accused Elena of possessing was now a chasm within him, laid bare for all to see. He looked broken, exposed, utterly defeated. Sophia, seeing her last ally crumble, spat on the polished gallery floor. "Pathetic," she hissed, whether at Alex or the situation wasn't clear. She turned on her heel, her exit as dramatic and empty as her presence. No one stopped her, no one cared. Ethan nodded curtly. 2 security guards moved forward, not roughly, but with firm finality. "Mr. Vexler," one said, his voice neutral, "you need to leave, now." Alex offered no resistance. He allowed himself to be guided out, a broken man shuffling past the vibrant art he couldn't see, his head bowed, the ghost of his former charm, a grotesque mockery. The gallery door closed softly behind him, sealing the end of an era. The silence lingered for a beat, heavy but cleansed. Then, tentative applause broke out, not for the drama, but for Elena's courage, her poise, her fierce defense of truth and her own worth. Marcus looked at her, his expression one of awe and profound respect. He hadn't needed to utter a word. She had fought her own battle, and won. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of Marcus's penthouse, a space now reflecting subtle changes, a striking modern sculpture Elena loved in a corner, art books mingling with financial reports, they stood on the terrace. The city glittered below, a tapestry of light mirroring the stars above. The tension of the confrontation had eased, replaced by a deep, resonant peace. Marcus turned to Elena, taking both her hands in his. The usual intensity in his eyes was softened by a vulnerability he'd learned to show only with her. "What you did tonight." He shook his head, struggling for words. "You were magnificent. You faced him down with more courage and clarity than I could have mustered." "He needed to hear it," Elena said quietly, leaning into his strength. "From me, not from the brother he envied. He needed to see that the safe choice wasn't weak, that the quiet embers hold a deeper, enduring heat." Marcus raised a hand, gently tracing the line of her jaw. "He was right about one thing," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "I did find a replacement for Sophia, but not as a possession, not as a trophy." He took a breath, his gaze locking with hers, sincere and unwavering. "I found a partner, someone who sees the world in color and light and hidden depths, someone whose integrity is a compass, someone whose quiet strength holds me steady." He reached into his pocket, not for a velvet box, but for a simple, smooth river stone, banded with layers of quartz and iron, enduring, unique, beautiful in its raw honesty. He placed it in her palm, folding her fingers over it. "Elena Vasquez, I built an empire of steel and code, but it was hollow. You helped me see that. You showed me light found in shadow. Will you build a different kind of empire with me? One built on trust, on honesty, on showing up? Will you marry me? Not for the gala, but for the quiet mornings, for the shared silences, for the art and the life we create together?" Tears welled in Elena's eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming joy and the rightness of the moment. There was no grand spectacle, only profound intimacy and a promise etched in the lines of his face and the cool weight of the stone in her hand. A symbol of resilience, of beauty forged under pressure, of a foundation stronger than gold. "Yes, Marcus," she whispered, her voice clear and sure. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." She reached up, pulling him into a kiss that sealed their pact, not just of love, but of partnership forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered by mutual respect. It was the beginning, not of a fairy tale, but of a profoundly real and enduring love story. Months later, under a canopy of ancient oaks on the grounds of a renovated upstate art foundation, Marcus's wedding gift to Elena, they exchanged vows. There was no city skyline, no ostentatious display of wealth. The setting was elegant, intimate, filled with genuine warmth and the vibrant energy of the art world Elena cherished. Sunlight dappled through the leaves onto the gathered faces of true friends and colleagues. Elena's gown was simple ivory silk, her bouquet a cascade of wildflowers and sculpted metal pieces. Marcus looked at her as if she were the only source of light in the universe. The officiant spoke of resilience, of finding beauty in unexpected places, of choosing honesty and building a legacy of love. As they exchanged rings, bands etched with a subtle pattern reminiscent of brushstrokes. The absence of Alex and Sophia was a palpable void, but not a painful one. It was the space where toxicity had been, now filled with peace. To Elena and Marcus. The toast, led by Charles, Marcus's longtime COO, was heartfelt. May your partnership be as enduring and surprising as the greatest masterpieces. Laughter and applause rang out, warm and true. Marcus held Elena close as they took their first steps as husband and wife, not through a gauntlet of flashbulbs, but through an avenue of smiling friends towards a future they would paint together, stroke by honest stroke. 1 year later, autumn painted the foundation grounds in fiery hues. Marcus Vexler sat in the light-filled conservatory they'd added, his laptop open but ignored on the table beside a steaming mug of tea. His gaze was fixed not on financial reports, but on Elena, seated across from him, sketching intently in a large pad. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, one hand resting gently on the pronounced curve of her belly. Their daughter, due in a matter of weeks, was already making her presence known. The Vexler Vasquez Foundation was thriving, bringing art programs to underserved communities and supporting emerging artists. Elena curated selectively, her reputation solidly built on her own keen eye, not her surname. Marcus still ran Ethelgard, but the frantic, all-consuming drive had mellowed. He delegated. He left the office by 6. He attended prenatal classes with the focused intensity he once reserved for hostile takeovers. A soft chime came from his laptop, a news alert flagged by Ethan. He glanced at the summary. Alexander Vexler had surfaced, taking a mid-level analyst position with a minor investment firm in Chicago. The article mentioned past controversies and a scaled-back professional profile. There was no mention of Sophia. She had vanished from public view entirely, rumored to be living off dwindling resources somewhere in Europe, her ambition finally extinguished by the consequences of her choices. Marcus closed the alert without reading further. That chapter was irrevocably closed. He looked back at Elena, watching as a shaft of afternoon sunlight caught the gold band on her finger, and the serene focus on her face as she sketched the future. He thought of the empire he'd built, the steel and glass towers, the lines of code worth billions. It was impressive, a testament to drive and intellect. But it paled in comparison to the empire he held now, cradled within these walls, growing within Elena, built on the infinitely stronger materials of trust, forgiveness, hard-won love, and the quiet, enduring power of choosing integrity. He reached across the table, covering her hand, the one not sketching, with his own. She looked up, her dark eyes warm, a smile blooming on her lips, a smile of deep contentment, of partnership, of light definitively won from the deepest shadow. Perfect, she murmured, though whether she meant the sketch, the moment, or the life they'd forged, Marcus couldn't be sure. He didn't need to ask. He simply squeezed her hand, knowing the Gilded Betrayal had led, unexpectedly and irrevocably, to this. An empire built of different, far more valuable materials. And it was only the beginning. The masterpiece was still unfolding. Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.